There will be no Fast Friday. In fact, there's going to be no more Fujifilm, no more photography. My kids made me this sign right here, and they want me to put it in the background, and they want me to change this channel from a photography and gear-based channel to a gaming channel, maybe for the next video. In the meantime, okay, fine, we'll do photography. Roll intro. Hi everyone, welcome to Pal to Tech. Today we are talking about the metering modes of Fujifilm cameras. Most Fujifilm cameras have 4 metering modes that you can choose from. Now on some cameras, such as the X-T2 and the X-T3, there's an entire area of a top dial that's dedicated for those metering mode selection choices. On other cameras, such as the X-T4, they're in an area of the camera's menu called the Photometry settings. Now one quick thing to know, if your photometry settings are located in the menu and you see this gold icon, you see this right here, and you can't select it. See how it's grayed out? The reason why you see that is because you have your camera set in Face Eye Auto Detect. Turn that off. Now when you go back into it, you will see it appear. Also note that you can assign a shortcut button on the back to access this menu faster. Now Fujifilm cameras offer you these settings for one very good reason. You are the photographer, and only you know exactly how to best expose your scene. The camera has no idea, but with correct metering settings, you can sort of help give the camera a better idea of what you're trying to do with your image. Okay, so the first metering setting on the list is called Multi. Multi is the one you want to set if you have no idea what metering mode you should use. What it does is it looks at your entire scene and it breaks it up into 256 separate zones. It then consults a special database inside the camera to make an exposure decision. Now this decision is based on 3 things: composition, color, and distribution of brightness. And it does it all in a millisecond, right? It's pouring rain outside. I am not going outside today, so we are doing this all indoors. This will be our sun, okay? Take a scene like this, for example, and think like the camera would with multi-metering. It would break this apart into different zones, and it would focus on the different aspects of the scene. For example, right here, that's the bright aspect, and it calculates how much of it is bright. And then there's kind of a mid-range aspect, and then over here are the shadows, right? What it does is that it consults that database inside the camera, puts it all together, and gives you the best possible exposure, kind of using artificial intelligence, so to speak. It's a great default metering setting to use for many shooting situations. The second metering mode is called Center Weighted. Now for this one, the camera has to do 2 things. First, it looks at the entire scene and calculates an average exposure of everything together. Then it takes another look at it and says, what's happening right in the center is what I think you think is the most important, so I'll give the most priority to that when I make my calculations. In other words, the camera prioritizes the center of the frame when it calculates the average of the entire scene. If you're shooting portraits or subjects that lie mostly in the center of the frame, then this would definitely be a good mode to try out. The next metering mode on the list is called Spot. I love this one, but you've got to be a bit careful with it. And it's definitely not for all shooting situations. According to Fuji, if you use Spot, the camera only looks at the center of the frame that's equivalent to 2% of the dimensions of your image, the overall image, okay? 2% of the overall image right in the center. That is Spot. Watch what happens when I position my camera so that the light source is in the center. Look at that. You see that? You see how it changes the exposure? Look at that. If it's right in the center of the frame, it's going to work out just fine. So here's the problem with using Spot. So I want to get Thanos and the Ninja Turtles in the same shot with the light in the center. I'll go to focus on Thanos. The minute I turn my camera, it only works if I'm aimed at Thanos, right? Or the Ninja Turtles. But look at this, because the light is in the center, Okay, you see that? You see that? So what do we do about it? It's actually pretty simple. You go into the camera menu settings, into AF/MF. You see where it says interlock spot, auto exposure and focus area, okay? Turn that on. Okay, now what that means is the little spot that you can move around the frame with the joystick on the camera, that will not only set your focus point, but it will also set the spot that the camera will be using when it's metering the scene for exposure. Does that make sense? So watch this. I want my frame to be right here, okay? You see that? I want it to be just like that. Now, I'm going to use the joystick on the camera, move this over here. Boom. It has exposed properly for my subject in the foreground. That is Thanos and the Ninja Turtles, and it's not blowing out the scene. You see that? I'm going to hold the camera just like this, and let's put it back to the other setting and see what would have happened. And I'm back here. Look at that. You see the problem? I have the spot focused on Thanos because I want Thanos to be in focus, but the camera is exposing spot metering in the center. So I think it's a better idea to lock those two together as much as possible. Try that out if you've not done so yet. Now, the last metering mode is called average, and it's, well, average, right? So I'm not a huge fan of this one. The camera basically looks at your entire scene as one big blob and averages everything together to get the exposure. Now, Fujifilm does recommend using average when you're needing to get consistent exposure across multiple shots using the same lighting, such as product photography or some landscapes. However, if you're going to average across everything, then I think that multi, the first one that I mentioned, works a lot better. Okay, before I send you off to have an awesome weekend, I want to say this. These 4 exposure modes that I just discussed do not do as good a job consistently as being able to read and understand your histogram and set your exposure from that, either through manual exposure settings or using the histogram to help you decide on how to best tweak your exposure compensation dial. Take some time to learn the histogram. I've done a few videos already on how to access the histogram and enable it and that sort of thing, but I don't think I have a full-blown video on how to read and use the histogram on Fujifilm cameras. That is coming. In the meantime, I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, be sure to give it the like and subscribe. Try out the various camera metering modes and see which one works best for you. Often you'll find that you'll switch them up depending upon the specific shooting situation that you're in. Listen, have a wonderful weekend. I am signing off now, and I will see all of you again next week. Take care.